What's up, golf addicts? Welcome to another week of the Tour Junkies on the Better Sports Network. And, it's going to be a great show. It's going to be a great show, not because David's not here. All right. I'm only counting for just personal reasons, but this is the fourth episode that David has not been on here with me. But nobody's counting for any other reason. It's just keeping track of that in the back of my head. But no, David is actually at the BMW Championship at Olympia Fields just outside of Chicago. So he's taken all of Chicago in. I think right now he's at the DraftKings Sportsbook, which is right next to Wrigley Field. And he's doing some content there for the PGA Tour. And then I think he's just going to have a lot of fun. He's going to go to a Cubs game and do that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, we're going to have a great show here on the Better Sports Network Tour Junkie Show. Excited. We've got Blake Kuzava on the show, and Blake is fantastic. He is a PGA Pro. He knows golf swings. He's funny. And I'm pretty sure he's going to be able to look at my swing, and he's probably going to roast it. And we got some other stuff that we can talk about. And actually, he's not probably going to roast it. He is going to roast it, but I'm okay with that. I'm all right. But I like the fact that we get to be on here together and talk about the swing. And there's a little bit of back and forth, because usually what happens is, in this case, David will send out the worst swing that I possibly have. He just happens to catch it on video because he loves to take a lot of videos. And then that's what he presents to the world. And it just makes me look worse. Now, it's not like my swing is that great anyway, but I've been playing a long time. It's my swing. It's my swing. Everybody has their swing, and so I'm looking forward to talking to Blake about that. But last week, of course, we're also going to get into the BMW Championship at the end of the show. We're going to talk bets, outrights, the course. We're going to do a quick just the tip. I don't have first-round leader bets. I don't really like first-round leader bets in a short field like this, but I'll give some extra top 10s. We'll have some long shot plays and all of those great things, and then we'll get into a DFS lineup. And I think this is going to be a tournament lineup this week. We don't really like to play cash in short fields like this. It's much harder to do that, to play double ups and things like that. So I'm going to put in a cash lineup or a tournament lineup, and you might have to switch a few players here and there because we don't want to duplicate the exact lineup. You don't want to do that. You're not going to win. But we'll do that at the end of the show. But first off, we got to talk about Lucas Glover winning back-to-back the FedEx St Jude Classic. Just an amazing run by Glover here. And we've been talking about Glover a good bit leading up to really his win the week previous to that at the Wyndham Championship. He's got that broomstick putter going, and it's locked in. And we've always said this about Lucas, like he's always been one of the best ball strikers in the world. There's never been a doubt about that. If you're on if a huge golf fan like we are, and you're on the PGA Tour app and you're following players on ShotLink, this is what you see from Lucas. It's like fairway, green to 20 feet, 15 feet, 3-putt, something like that, something crazy. Fairway, green to 4 feet, misses it, just a par. That's what we always got from Lucas Glover. But now he can putt. Now he's got the broomstick going, and it's working, obviously, back to back. You just don't really see that a whole lot on the PGA Tour. So it's been a great run for Lucas Glover, and this really opens up a ton of doors for him. He's already shot all the way up to number 3 in the FedEx Cup standings. Now he's in the Ryder Cup talk, which I think there's good reason for that. Not only because he's playing extremely well, but he's really the perfect fit for what we need over there. I mean, this is what the Europeans do. They tighten the fairways. They have I've heard that they're just going to have huge, high fescue, 10 yards off the fairway on this course in Rome. So Lucas is a type player that you want, a great ball striker. And then, you got to have guys that can putt. And it's amazing to say this, but Lucas Glover can putt right now. So it's been a good run. And you know what? He beat Patrick Cantlay in the playoff. Cantlay had a magnificent Sunday. It really was. I wasn't even looking at him. I had an outright on Jordan Spieth, and I wasn't even looking at Patrick Cantlay. And all of a sudden, he just slowly comes up the leaderboard, kind of like he plays, slowly comes up the leaderboard, making a lot of birdies, and he ends up in the playoff. and then hits it in the water off the tee, which, I mean, I get that's probably a little bit of an aggressive line that he took there. But if you're first off the tee, I mean, I don't even care if you, I mean, just aim out a little bit further to the right and just, get in the fairway or, whatever, just off the fairway, and let's not hit it in the water. Easier said than done, right? But Lucas Glover goes on to win. Now, I have to do this. Because David would be mad if I did. David, as we know, has had a long dry spell. Has not hit an outright. I don't know when. It was cold here in Savannah, Georgia, when he hit an outright. So it's been that long. All right. I'm talking like 50 degrees is about what it was. And it's like 100 degrees right now. So there's a big difference in those degrees. But this week or last weekend, David had an outright on Lucas Glover at 90-1, and he hits, and the dry spell is over. I'm proud of David. Now, he do his betting card a little bit different last week on the show? Yeah. He spun a wheel. Now, he did put the names on the wheel, and he, luckily for us all, he got Lucas Glover on the betting card, and so he gets an outright. I'm happy for David.
Yes! Lucas Glover. 90-1, 45 units off the schneid. Break even for the year. Woo!
Now I think he's probably going to go on a run. That's what's going to happen. So I feel certain about that. But congrats to Lucas Glover. Glad to see him win. He is a fantastic guy, by the way. Just a great guy. Cam Smith won Live Golf Bedminster. He won it by 7 shots. Just absolutely. Oh, wait. Before we talk about Cam, Tony's got a question for me. And Tony, what do you got? I'd like to hear it about Glover.
Pat, I wanted to ask from a betting perspective. So obviously Lucas goes back to back. Shout out DB for nailing that. I didn't see that. He just spun a wheel for it. So it's a little,
he might have left that out last week.
A little extra luck there. Yeah. But for you personally, your mindset when you're betting and you're putting out your betting card, not that anyone cares, but when you put it out, are you looking, I know you look at recent form, but if a guy wins the previous week, is he off your betting card the following week? Now that Lucas has gone back to back, even with the recent form going back 5-6 weeks now, it's been really, really good. Even a couple months.
Yeah.
There's no way you put an outright on Lucas Glover 3 in a row, right? What's kind of your mindset after a guy is just going scorched earth these past few weeks?
Well, I think there's a couple things here. One, for 3 in a row, I just don't think I'm going to put him on the card for that. I feel like the odds, I mean, we've only seen that, I think Rory's done it. I know Tiger's done it, and maybe 1 or 2 others in a long time. So, I mean, like Sam Snead or something. We might have to go back further. So I just don't see him winning 3 in a row. I also don't think this course fits him quite as well as those other 2 did. I think it made sense, and David made a pretty good argument actually on the show, even though the betting wheel, it spun for Lucas Glover for him. He did make a pretty good case that Lucas Glover could easily go back to back just the way he's playing, and it was a good course fit for him. Another reason too, and I think, with the playoffs, the way they are, like, you really can't let up, especially like Lucas when he was just trying to get into the top 50. And then of course he wins at Wyndham and then he wins again, but there's a lot to play for to keep going, to try and get that win, to make sure you can lock in, a chance to make it to Atlanta and Eastlake. So I think at the end of the year, it makes more sense to maybe go that somebody can go back to back. I feel like Tony Finau was close to doing that in the playoffs a few years ago. I don't know. I could be wrong, but you see guys that like Billy Horschel got hot the year that he won the FedEx. I don't know if he won back-to-back or not, but he did get hot during that time. So I feel like this is a time of year where you could do that. But for the most part, my mindset is to take that guy off coming off of a victory, especially a major. I just think that they've got a lot on their minds. They've got a lot of things they're doing that they're not used to after a victory, especially a guy like Glover, who hasn't won in a while. So I would say that for the most part, probably coming off the card. But when it comes to the playoffs, you probably could make a case for doing like DB did and putting him on his card a week after he had already won. But you just don't see back-to-back all that much. So, and for the most part, I'm probably just going to leave him off. But great question. Cam Smith, though, he wins at Live Golf Bedminster by 7 shots. Pretty freaking amazing. That now makes 2 wins in 3 starts for Cam Smith. So it appears that he is definitely back into the form that I felt he kind of lost a little bit after his Open Championship win last year. And when he had, he had I'm sure a lot of stressors and everything else when it came to jumping over to Live. I felt like, and I think he even said that he wasn't necessarily practicing and focusing as much. But now we got Cam Smith certainly back. And I expect a big year from him. I think he'll change a lot with the Live thing. I think he kind of learned some things going through it last year that didn't really set him up to play well in this year's majors. But I think next year, you definitely got to be on the lookout for him when it comes to the Masters, for sure. And especially the Open Championship next year. So I think Cam Smith winning is a big deal, especially for his confidence. And it was good for him. The other big story from last week was Phil Mickelson. He's back in the news for gambling. Now this isn't any earth-shattering news that he gambles. We all knew that. But the actual specifics were quite interesting to see. He wagered over $1 billion total, which is mind-blowing. He has losses up to 100 million. He bet 110,000 to win 100,000, a total of 1,115 times. He bet 220,000 to win 200,000, a total of 858 times. And he made 3,154 bets in 2011 and 43 major league bets in one single day. Major League Baseball. There was also a rumor that he bet on the Ryder Cup. I think he refuted that some. I know, Tony, you got some comments on this too, because you put it in here, and I think, so I got to bring you back in to tell me your thoughts, because a lot of this is it's a lot to take in. It's a little bit, it's just mind blowing for us folks that don't have that much money to bet.
Yeah, seeing those numbers, they're just like eye-popping numbers. But I forget who put it on Twitter last week when all this started coming out. But just to kind of put it in a little bit of perspective, I think it was $110,000 bet, something along those lines for Phil, with what he was making at the time and what he averages $50-60 million a year bringing in. It would be like a person who makes $100,000 a year placing a $150 bet. So obviously the $1 billion number, the losses up to 100 million, those are kind of like the eye-popping numbers and stats that kind of come out of that. But when you put it into kind of that perspective of what he was bringing in, all of that kind of stuff, I don't know, not that it dumbs it down or lessens it a little bit or whatever, but it kind of just, Phil likes to gamble.
Yeah,
that's what we do here, on this channel, on the show, all of that. Like we like to gamble. We like to get after a little bit. So, yeah, but just those are incredible, incredible numbers. I think the Action Network put up a tweet last week after this came out too that said some eye-popping stats from Phil, and then listed them all out like it was, points, rebounds, and assists. He clearly had the triple double there, but
yeah,
just crazy numbers.
Yeah, it really is. And that definitely puts it in perspective for sure, because when you think of our unit sizes that just a typical bettor has, it's certainly, it hopefully, all of us are, being responsible with our betting. But, it definitely is a little, it puts it in perspective with how much money he was making. But it's still, he's obviously, the volume of the bets and all of that stuff is just eye popping. Like it just, I just don't even know how he had enough time to do it, but he did. And Phil, like, I feel like for the most part, I know he's got all these losses and everything, but I've heard him on shows before talking about the NFL and talking about his NFL bets and stuff like that, given reasoning behind it. Like he was really, pretty good and knowledgeable with it. I don't know. It just is what it is. By the way, good for whoever these bookies were. So, I mean, for the most part.
One of the best quotes to come out of that so this is from the Billy Walters book that is coming out. An excerpt came out last week, and Phil, I believe Billy in it said, "Big time bettors make big time bets," and that's just something that I want to I just want to incorporate that into my life more often.
Yeah.
The wife asked me to do something. Well, listen, hey, big time bettors make big time bets.
I love that quote. I might have to write that one down. So yeah, well, Phil's big time. I mean, Phil's big time, and but good for him. All right, we're gonna move on. We're gonna come back here in just a little bit with Blake Kuzava. He's gonna roast my swing. He's gonna talk about all things teaching right now and what he's doing. He's a great friend of the Tour Junkies. He does fantastic work. He's entertaining, which we love. And so we're going to come back with Blake Kuzava here on the Tour Junkies Golf Show on the Better Sports Network.
Matt Deutsch here, live at the Scott Fish Bowl 13 New York City Draft at Tito Murphy's. The first round of the Shake Shack division is underway. If you could believe it, team number one, you're going to love this, Mike Lipchenko selects Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback, Miami Dolphins in the 101. An unbelievable, surprising pick here in the 4th spot. From the game day, Scott the King Engel. How does he start his draft? Not with a Seattle Seahawk, but the Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen will lead Scott Engel's team. He's right here. King, what do you think about Josh Allen to start your team?
I didn't think he was actually going to fall to me. The Tua Tagovailoa pick was off the board. Mike said he was going to pivot. So it was just a matter of who's going to fall to me. I just always think about, okay, who's the top guy on my board, who's going to fall to me. But having Josh Allen at 4 proves that every draft has a different flow and you never know what's going to happen.
Bobby Cable's here. Tell us about the Scott Fish Bowl charity personally touched your family.
So basically, when I joined the military, when you get called up, you don't necessarily get money right away. It takes 30 days for any money to hit your account. And what I'm telling you is that if it wasn't for people like Scott Fish Bowl and Toys for Tots, my family wouldn't have had a Christmas. So stuff like this, I'll Hulk smash somebody for, because without it, my family would legitimately not have a Christmas because of it.
Scott Fish Bowl at fansandcares.org, of course, break the hole. Amazing job for everybody to come out here. And look what we've given ourselves here. A whole Saturday at a New York City bar to ourselves. No family, no job. Some of us working. But really, fantasy football party here with the best people in New York City together. So congratulations to everybody.
Making you money in daily fantasy sports and golf betting. Tour Junkies on Better Sports Network.
Last week, we did a best ball draft with our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Producer Tony may or may not have beat DB and myself in our contest. He totally did. He's making me say it in this promo read. But we don't need to dwell on that. What you guys need to do is head over to Underdog Fantasy, where first-time depositors get a 100% match up to $100 using promo code ALARM. You can also use our code JUNKIES. Go to fantasyalarm.com/underdog and enter promo code ALARM or JUNKIES to get started. 100% match up to $100 using those promo codes. All right. Well, I appreciate that, producer Tony. I knew you had to throw something in there especially when I have to do a read. But welcome back to the Tour Junkies show on the Better Sports Network. I've been really looking forward to this 25 minutes or so, however long we're going to go. We have got PGA Pro Blake Kuzava coming in here, coming in hot in the pro shop, or is that the bag room?
Oh yeah.
What is that, Blake?
This is part of the pro shop. This is where our demo clubs go. So I'm just sheltered in a little corner back here.
Well,
nice,
it looks absolutely fantastic. We appreciate you coming on the show. This is really like you and I's kind of maiden conversation here. Like, this is our maiden voyage, because usually you're always talking to DB. He kind of runs the narrative a little bit with us. He's probably told you things that aren't true about me. Maybe they are true. I don't know. We're going to get into some of that with my swing coming up here in a little bit. I know you got some good stuff, and you do a lot of great work. And a lot of great work in the Nut Hut with our listeners who come into the Nut Hut on Discord, our personal Discord channel. You need to get in there if you have not already. And Blake has his own channel in there, does a really good job. And I know you've seen some crazy swings in there.
Definitely seen a wide variety of golf swings in there. Seen some good ones.
Yeah. Would you say, for the most part, since we have a lot of there are a lot of bettors in there, they're not always I don't know what shape everybody's in personally, but would you say, in our Nut Hut Discord, is it average swings, worse than average? Where are we along the average of what you're seeing week in and week out?
Yeah, I would say the members of the Discord are probably on the more average to low side of what the golf swing is all about. I'd say, but then you think about it, most everybody who golfs, the wide percentage of golfers are just average swingers of the club, right?
Yeah.
There's only an elite 2% that swing it real nice. So that's always something. Everything's relative if you look at it like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but not everybody's swing is going to be pretty, right? It's like I kind of said at the top of the show, everybody has their swing. And you kind of have to build that into the way, I guess, you're teaching. And it's not just necessarily the swing, but also their swing thoughts. And so what's kind of your philosophy with teaching the swing? And then what kind of things you're trying to really ingrain into people so that they can get better?
I think you're absolutely right. I think every single individual, I say they have an origin or a golf DNA that they created when they first started playing golf, whether it's cognitive or their actual mechanics, the way they hit the golf ball. As far as the way that I approach my teaching within those individuals, I'm trying to figure out who you are as a person. I'm trying to figure out the best way that you like to learn. Some people are very analytical. Some people are very feel-based. I think good teachers are able to kind of adapt the way they teach to base it around who that individual is. Now, while saying that, my overall kind of teaching methodology or philosophy is based around, it's going to sound kind of cliche, but it's based around consistency, right? I bring kind of the modern technical, mechanical side of the golf swing and where golf is going to be going in the next 30 years, which is very rotation, club face oriented, in comparison to some of that's kind of a wide synopsis of what I do. But again, I'm tailoring it to an individual. I'm not teaching everybody kind of cookie cutter methodologies. It's not for everybody. That's something that I like to stress with, players that I work with, is there is no one right way, right? I think people go on social media, they see a bunch of different ways to swing a golf club, and they think, man, that one's going to be me. Not necessarily, right? I think you got to find out what works for you and what you're able to game with the best. So that's just a little bit of the way that I approach my teaching for the most part.
Yeah, I love that. What do you think, when you get somebody that shows up for the first time to see you, what is the typical, are they usually reaching to their driver first? Like, is it always linked? And do you have to like say, all right, let's dial it back? You know, does
Totally.
has anybody ever grabbed a pitching wedge first?
Man, if they did grab that pitching wedge first, I'd feel so blessed and so happy. But no, a majority of people that come to my lesson tee, you know, they're stressing the fact that they want to improve driver. That's the most common thing is driver this, driver that. What I tell them is I can oftentimes mechanically see an issue within a 7-iron golf swing that's going to lend itself to why that person is hitting driver with a, you know, when we get to a driver, right, the club's longer, we're setup's a little bit different. All we're seeing is a bigger dispersion within the same miss you would have in a 7-iron or a pitching wedge. But you have no idea how many people I tell all my students this. You don't come to me for a Band-Aid fix. I'm not the teacher for Band-Aid fixes. I'm the kind of teacher who's looking long-term towards somebody's future in the game of golf. I hate, like, if you had a tournament tomorrow and you came and saw me and was like, dude, help me with this really fast. Like, I just need to be able to, you know, go out there and get lucky to some degree. I'm just not the guy for that. I'm all about kind of this long picture kind of deal. So if somebody's trying to, you know, figure out, now, again, that's not always the case. Maybe I've worked with a person enough and I'm like, okay, let's make sure you're in a good spot going into, you know, tomorrow. I don't consider that a Band-Aid fix though, but I think you're exactly right. A lot of people, they're pulling out that big stick first and they're like, man, let me show you what's going on. And oftentimes it's not good. So
yeah, I could see that. You know, imagine, you know, putting is a weird thing to me. I mean, there's so many different things about putting. You know, there's different styles to putt. There's different lengths of putters, all that kind of stuff. And that's going to lead me into a question about Lucas Glover. But, you know, when you're looking at somebody's putting, what are kind of the basic things that you really want to get down with, especially a mindset with putting? Because I think that is one thing, a mindset, seeing a line, doing all those things. Like, so what are your sort of basics there with teaching somebody how to be a better putter?
Man, I think you just nailed it right on the head, just right there at the end there. Confidence, okay, it is a majority of what putting is. When you have a player who's a poor putter or they believe they're a poor putter, you have no idea how much that leaks its way into not only their stroke mechanics, but also the way they're reading and perceiving green reads. But, you know, as far as kind of overall mechanics of a putting stroke that I'd look at is first off setup. You know, you see all different kinds of setups on tour, right? And from good putters. I think comfort at setup is a big thing. I think I wouldn't want to make somebody super rigid, super uncomfy just to be, you know, hitting something mechanically very sound. If they're comfortable, you know, with their hands a little lower, maybe a little tighter to the golf ball, whatnot, I'm going to always make sure comfort's hit first. As far as the things that I would look at, eye line is super important. Eye line, you know, if you're an arc stroker, if you like to bring that putter a little bit more inside, finish kind of around yourself, let the toe release, your eye line is going to want to be a little bit inside the golf ball. If you're more of a straight back, straight through kind of putter, somebody who's maybe using a counterbalance putter, your eye line is going to want to be right over that golf ball. Eye line is important because it affects not only your stroke pattern, but it also affects the way that we're perceiving and reading putts when we're actually over the golf ball. So that's a huge one. Maybe last thing in putting that I would talk about is I like to think of ratios in putting. You have no idea how many people come to me and they deal with they're decelling through their stroke, right? Mm-hmm. When they go play on greens that are running 13, 14, okay, they're defensive, they're decelling. So their backstroke ratio is too far back and their through stroke tends to be too short. So it kind of lends itself to a decel through that impact zone. I like to talk ratios with certain people because I like a little bit more of a poppy stroke, something that's always accelerating. I love somebody, and you've probably seen a ton of good putters, and it seems like all the good putters have that little bit of pop through the golf ball. The ball is not wishing into the hole. You know, they're taking more aggressive kind of initial reads, and they're hitting the ball in with a little pace, right? So that's something that I would look at putting wise. And how crazy is this Lucas Glover thing? I mean,
it's nuts. It's nuts. I think it goes back to what you just said with the confidence, with the putter, with, you know, confidence breeds, you know, aggressive putting, which doesn't, I mean, not meaning like trying to burn it by, but confident lines, getting the ball to the hole, and then you're gonna make putts that way. And it goes like with Lucas, it's just that confidence. I know he had kind of a yippy thing going on with the short putter. So your kind of initial thoughts on Lucas, like, you know, with what he's been able to do with the broomstick there.
I think this is beautiful. I think so. He's gone to this lab putter. You're going to probably see it, you know, more and more, just like Wyndham Clark with the Odyssey and Ricky with the Odyssey. I think you're going to start to see certain guys start to, you know, who strokes gained or having issues on the greens are going to start to maybe go to some equipment stuff like this. And I think that's a beautiful kind of way to intro how, you know, club fitting and club instruction, or club fitting and overall instruction, kind of go hand in hand, right? You know, you put the right club in Lucas Glover's hand, something he feels confident with, something that he's getting on the right start line time and time again, and all of a sudden he wins 2 times in a row, right?
Yeah.
But it's hard to always find that piece of equipment that can kind of tailor to what your golf game is. But man, if you can, whether it's a putter or irons or a driver, you know, there's ways that equipment can really assist overall, you know, functionality on the golf course. And I think that's what Lucas Glover we're seeing right now. Always a good, you know, golf swing, ball striker. You kind of touched on that. Pure, repeatable golf swing. Talk about something you'd want to kind of mirror your move off of.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's not a whole lot going on in that golf swing. Simple, complete. He knows where that thing's going. He knows what his misses are very effectively. And now that he's starting to roll some putts in, getting that little bit of confidence, it'll be interesting to see how he kind of finishes the season off.
Yeah, I am too. So you're talking about the swing there with Lucas. Who's another like tour player that you feel like just has one of your favorite swings on tour?
Yeah, I'll hit you. I'll hit you with. I kind of go through phases of golf swings on tour that I really like, but this one's kind of sat with me for a little bit. Cam Young, right? Cam Young,
yeah,
powerful. If I were to have an amateur or your everyday golfer take a look at Cam Young's golf swing, what I want them to notice is his transition, right? And I think it's probably the most glaring part of it, what his golf swing is. But man, does he look patient at the top. He sits there with his hands for, you know, a second or two. He lets his body start to be kind of the functionality of his downswing. The reason he holds angles so well, hits it so darn far is part of that rhythm and timing at the top, and how he just sits there and lets all the good things kind of happen. As we start to take a look into your golf swing here in a second, we're going to, you know, a good thing for you to start to look at is how quick your transition happens, how quickly your hands are probably going to start from the top. Just like, you know, 80 to 90% of golfers out there who are, you know, predominant slicers of the ball. Okay. Oftentimes from the top of their backswing, hands are starting fast and they're cutting across it all day. Cam Young, really athletic, really kind of just beautiful timing at the top. That's a golf swing I would watch day in and day out. Whether he's playing good or not playing good, I don't really mind, because I love watching his move.
Yeah, I'm a big Cam Young fan too. So it's going from Cam Young to Pat Perry. So now we got to bring up my swing and see and get your analysis of it. And I know we can kind of talk over it. Now this swing this is in a lab, basically, as I would say. So it is kind of you know, it's a little better than normal, but you know, let's talk about it a little bit and see what your initial thoughts are on the swing.
Yeah, so let me kind of hit off. Let me just start off by saying this for all the viewers out there. This angle on the left, this face-on perspective, okay. That, when I work on my own golf game, that is a better angle for me to kind of tell what's going on in my golf game. Now, is that for everybody? No. Your kind of face-on profile actually looks beautiful. You have a nice little bit of tilt at address. Let's watch it again here in a second. Club moves back nicely. You have nice separation, nice width, and you make a nice move through. The side face-on perspective of your golf swing doesn't look that off. Okay, so Pat, for you, the one that's glaring is going to be your down the line, okay, where you can kind of see where the club is in relation to the swing plane. When I take a look at your golf swing, okay, and I've taken a look at it a little bit, talk to me first. Have you ever seen the left side of any golf course you've played on?
You know what? It's funny because I do come over the top some, and I do have a left miss occasionally.
Oh,
But yeah, it is. I call it. I say it's my natural swing with a cut, which I
yeah,
don't mind playing. I think a lot of people want to play a draw a lot, but I like the cut, so I'm comfortable with it. Now, would I like to hit a draw some? Absolutely. But you're right. I don't see. The open course. I've played there. If you miss right, you end up in a lot of bunkers on the open course. It's just how it's how St. Andrews is set up. I ended up on the front nine in a lot of bunkers, and it's because of that move that I
yeah.
can't seem to get rid of. So it feels like it happens at the top. Now you may see it somewhere else, but that's what I feel like.
Yeah, totally. So, just a little perspective on myself. Played college golf. Used to be a sling hooker of the golf ball, just this big sling and draw around, right? Turned pro, changed all my methodologies of what I perceive the golf swing as. Now I'm a nice cutter of the golf ball. I like the visual of the ball cutting, right? I like it falling right. I think it's a little easier to talk to. I'd love not changing your perspective of what kind of golf shot, what kind of ball flight you're chasing. I like that you like to see a little cut. As far as where your golf swing needs to go, is you are limited only to a pull cut with where that top position is coming from. If you could learn anything from a lot of really good golfers out on tour, or maybe some good amateurs, is how they find the slot in the downswing. That club kind of falls on their right forearm. It's nice and shallow. And then they can turn and burn through it because that club is going to be on that inside part of the golf ball. Lee Trevino talked about this. This is a great one. Lee Trevino, little cutter of the golf ball back in the day, right? He perceives hitting a cut from the inside part of the golf ball. He's still trying to attack the inside part of the golf ball, even when hitting a cut. When I see your kind of transition move, how it gets steep across, okay, you all day are going to be hitting 5 o'clock on the golf ball instead of 7 o'clock. So you have limited yourself to a start line that has to start left and kind of come back. And the reason that's on, day-to-day basis is you do hit it left is all face related. Your path is always kind of what it is, but sometimes your timing is going to be a little bit off. That face is going to flip shut on you. Now, all of a sudden, your golf swing is based around timing. Within my teaching, that's the whole thing I try to get rid of. I said consistency, but timing. Timing is and if it's happening right at impact, oh boy, one day you might go shoot 78, right? Maybe I don't know what a good round is for you, 77, 75. But the next day, because your timing is just a fraction off, you're going to shoot 89.
Yeah,
okay?
that is 100% correct. And now 70s would be a little bit generous, but it is my goal to break 80. I have done it before, but a good round for me is, somewhere around 80, 81. But then when it's off, it could be, 90, 89, 90, something like that. So,
yeah. I know we don't have your golf swing up anymore, but the last thing that I would touch just for your golf swing, just so you have an idea, general idea, I'm a huge believer in the fact that club face is the most important part of golf. Okay, when you get up to your top position, P4, in this kind of right angle, this face is wide open. Okay, so in your downswing, the only way that you found out a way to kind of counteract that face being open, either your subconscious or conscious brain has kind of wrapped its head around the fact that it has to come across the golf ball to get this ball started left and moving back right. With a lot of my, either pros or top amateurs that I work with, okay, we're going to get that face in a better position at P4 top position to allow that downswing to be a little bit more effortless. So the brain and your hands and the club can drop into a slot, and you can trust that the face isn't just going to be fanned wide open. Because if you were to drop it in the slot a lot right now, Pat, with where that face is at the top, let's say you kind of get it nice and shallow, you attack from inside a part of the golf ball, you're going to hit these shots that start right and fan, 30 yards right. And you're going to be like, wow, do I hate that golf shot?
Yeah.
So your path will become hard to deal with unless you get that face at the top in a better spot. Does that make sense with you?
Yeah, it does. And I would kind of go into the fact too, I hit a lot of balls off the toe, which I think you probably can tell from the swing. And that's why I feel like if I could, do a lot of the things you're saying that, I almost measure my distances off the fact that I know a lot of balls are going to be off the toe. And so it changes it, right? Like if I hit it pure, I'm like, oh crap. I mean, that was fantastic. It felt really good, but I went 20 yards over the green, you know? So that happens a lot for me too.
One of my best friends, great golfer. He's on the Latin America tour, played at Wisconsin. When I first started playing golf, we were in high school together, and his golf swing wasn't what it is now. And he was the dude who would double club up and then play for a miss hit, and he'd hit it like pin high, almost every time. I'm like, Griffin, what are you hitting here? And he's I know he's 2 clubs up, and then he kind of fat toes it like pin high 10 feet. I'm like, no way. But yeah, it's hopefully someday you get to a spot in your golf swing where you're not playing for that toe strike. When that is such a common miss hit for guys and girls that swipe across the golf ball. But you just let that thing get a little bit more into that slot, and that toe strike comes out damn near immediately, which is nice, which should be hopefully a refreshing thought to you.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, Blake. Before we let you go, and I want you to give the folks where they can find all of your stuff. I'm going to give you a lesson. I just want you to know, because everybody, I'm kind of known for the fact that I'm top 1,000 in the world in the bump and run. I don't know if you knew that or not, but I am. And, so if you ever need me to send you a video on how to teach the bump and run, I'm happy to do that for your clients, for your players. But one hint that I would tell you is, you need to go with like an 8 or 9 iron, kind of hood it a little bit, de-loft it some, get that ball rolling on the ground, and then, you just let it nestle up to the hole. It's not always going to go in, but you don't, if you're 10 yards off the green, you don't have to hit a beautiful flop shot. I know it looks pretty. Just get a little bump and run. It's more error free. You're not going to chunk
doubt.
it. So,
get it on the ground. Get it acting like. Well, I might be taking a lesson from you here in the future. Hey Pat, you tell me. Are you playing mostly Bermuda grass where you're at?
I am. Yes, I am.
Yeah, that's a good one to hear too. Because out here in Colorado, we're playing bent grass, bluegrass, which is like the easiest to chip. People that come to me for short game lessons, not knowing how to chip, I'm like, I hope you're not going, Florida, wherever, with this Bermuda, because if you can't chip on bent grass, bluegrass, you got no chance on the old Bermuda. So I'm going to start getting the ball on the ground a little bit faster, maybe hood a couple 8 irons around.
There you go. All right, Blake, I appreciate it. Where can everybody find your stuff, social media, everything? Let the folks know, because you do a great job. And again, we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys letting me on. It's been a pleasure working with you guys. As far as Instagram and TikTok, Pop Golf Instruction. Pop stands for Progress Over Perfection. I hope a lot of people take that's those 3 simple words into, maybe not only just their golf game, but into life itself, right? Mm-hmm. That's where you can find me on the socials. People that are in the Colorado area, if you want to find me for a lesson, PGA coach is a great way to find me. But other than that, man, this is that's about it as far as how you'll find me. I try to stay as hidden as possible.
Well, you do a great job. Appreciate you, Blake. As I said, you can also find them on our Discord server for the Nut Hut, doing our folks a great service, teaching them how to be better golfers. So appreciate you, Blake. All right, we'll be back. We're going to talk about the BMW Championship. We're going to do a preview, talk about the course, some stats that we like, the weather, everything else, and then go over some plays. We'll start at the top of the board, and then we'll work our way down. We'll be right back here on the Tour Junkies show on Better Sports Network. All right, we're back. The Tour Junkies show on the Better Sports Network. I am your host, Pat Perry, and we are coming off a fantastic segment with Blake Kuzava, PGA Pro, great teacher, very entertaining. That was some awesome stuff. And I got a few things to work on, apparently, with my swing, which I knew I did. But I like the way he puts things. I think it really puts your swing into perspective, makes you kind of be able to feel and think about it the right way. So I got a lot of work to do, but thank you, Blake, for coming on. Now it's time to get into the BMW Championship Preview. This is the penultimate event. That's a hard word to say sometimes. Imagine if I had several beers, it'd be even more difficult. But anyway, we've got the BMW Championship this week. 50 players are in the field. We are at Olympia Fields golf course just outside of Chicago. Olympia Fields is a very difficult golf course. The last time they were here was in 2020. John Rahm won at 4 under, which tells you it's somewhat difficult, okay? Because you typically see way more under than that on PGA Tour events. And 4 under is something you might see at a major championship. So this is a great course. It's 7,366 yards. It is a par 70. You pretty much got kind of a bent grass POA mix on the greens here. So it's a great course. Only 2 par 5s are on this golf course. They're both over 600 yards. So they're really not that gettable, which kind of is where that's kind of why you just don't see very low scores here. There are not a whole lot of holes out here where you can make a ton of birdies. So I just don't think you're going to see, too low of scores here. You want guys that are, bogey avoidance, I think, is a key stat. You want that. You want good ball strikers, but definitely guys that are going to check the box in total driving. They can get the ball out there, but hit the ball in the fairway. You want to look at that. And then strokes gained approach for sure. You got to hit these greens. And they should run pretty pure, though, on this kind of bent POA mix that they're on this week. The weather looks interesting. We've gotten a lot of rain. I know last week I was texting with DB, who's in Chicago right now, and he said I think he used the words biblical proportions last night, which means the golf course is going to soften up, which makes it play even longer. I even had a caddy texting me earlier today saying, his man is in the field. Didn't really like the fact that the course was going to be playing much longer. I think it is going to play into the Bombers' hands, which is what we saw in 2020. If you looked at the top 10 of the leaderboard, guys like John Rahm winning, Hideki, Tony Finau was up there. Those were the type guys that we saw on the leaderboard, and they're definite bombers. Now, I do think you can pick your spots with some of the more accurate guys when we're going down the board with the bets. But for the most part, you do really kind of want to look at the bombers out here. I think that's going to be important. When we're looking at the top of the board, you got the 3 favorites as they've been all year. Rory at plus 650, Scheffler at 7-1 plus 700, and then Rahm at plus 900. To me, I'm kind of it's sort of like you're a Rory guy or a Scheffler guy this week. I'm a Rory guy. I feel like if I'm going to bet up top in the favorites, I really like Rory, just how he's been playing. I mean, he won the Scottish Open. He played great last week. He's really just been playing good for the most part all year, except for when it comes down to the majors. So I think if you're going to bet a favorite, I would go with Rory. Now, I could certainly make a case for Scheffler as well, except for the putting. Maybe like Lucas Glover, he needs to go to the broomstick. I should have asked Blake about that, whether or not he thought Scheffler should go to the broomstick, because maybe he should. I think even DB said if Scheffler was in the press room this week in Chicago, that he was going to ask him that question. But I do think the putting issues are a little bit of a thing right now for Scheffler. And then Rahm just feels like he's kind of all over the place. He was hitting balls in the water last week, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. It just didn't feel like Rahm is really in the form that he was earlier this year. And so I'm not really feeling him up at the top of the leaderboard. If we kind of work our way down a little bit, the first guy that really pops for me is Victor Hovland. Victor Hovland is at 16-1. That's pretty much where he is across the board. I really like what I saw out of Victor last week. He made a lot of birdies. I'm not sure the exact stats. He may have even led the field in birdies. I could be wrong, but he did make a lot of mistakes, finished at 10 under. So he was still, 5 shots off the lead, didn't make it into a playoff. But I do like what we saw from Victor Hovland. We know he's a great total driver of the golf ball. We know that. He's a fantastic ball striker. And how about this? He has gained strokes in scrambling in 3 of his last 4 events, which if you know Victor Hovland, that has always been a big issue for him. But 3 of his last 4 events gaining and scrambling that's a good number. And typically when you talk about bogey avoidance, when you talk about hard golf courses with difficult greens like this, you do need to scramble well. That's what you see also in majors. The guys that have played the best and that are coming out on top are usually up there when it comes to scrambling. So I really like Victor Hovland at 16-1. Now the board is a little tighter, just the way, with the fact that there are only 50 players in here. So we don't have a ton of like mid to long shot bombs. I do like Hideki this week. I've seen him around 30-1. I do like Hideki. I think, he kind of sort of snuck into the field a little bit. I think he birdied his last 3 holes in Memphis to make it into the top 50. But he played well here last time. He was 2 under, so only 2 shots back of John Rahm. So I think Hideki's kind of a sneaky play there at 30-1. Another couple guys that I like kind of in this mid-range area. Ben On continues to play well. He's at 40-1. I think I like him. He finished in the top 15, by the way, last time they were here at Olympia Fields. So Ben Odd's another one in that mid-range at 40-1. A couple other guys that I do like in here. You got guys in here like I guess a little bit longer. I would say, well, Cam Davis is one we have to have on the betting card. 50-1. I've seen him a little bit longer. He may even be able to get him at 60-1 on your books. He's been played very well lately. I like him on this golf course, has plenty of length. So Cam Davis is another one at 50-1. A couple, what I would say, are long shots this week, only because we just don't have a ton that we can even really look at. I do like Emiliano Grillo. People just don't ever want to bet him. But you know what I did earlier this year at Colonial, and he won. But he's at 70-1 around there. I think I've seen him as long as 80-1. I like Grillo. I think this is a good course fit for him. Not necessarily the longest hitter of the golf ball, but as we know, a great ball striker, and he's putting well too. He's kind of like Lucas Glover light. He's been putting pretty well, kind of sneaky good the last few weeks, has gained strokes putting. That's a good sign for him. I think he can continue that good play, and I like Grillo there at 70-1. Probably the longest shot I'll look at is Adam Schenk. Adam Schenk is at 110-1. I think that's a pretty good number there. Now I don't have any first round leader bets. I just, in a field like this, it's just not something that I'm really looking at all that much. But if I'm looking at some top 10s, I do think there's some good value here in some of the top 10s that I'd like to play this week. One is Victor Hovland, plus 140. I like that. I think you could play Tommy Fleetwood at plus 175. Now, I don't know if he's ever going to win. I don't, especially after last week. DB and I talked about this on our show. I used to feel like I had this FOMO. If I didn't have Fleetwood on the card, I was going to miss out, and he was going to win, and I was going to hate it because I have him on almost every card, I feel like. But now I'm kind of over it. I just don't know if he can win. And Fleetwood at plus 175, I do like as a top 10. Couple more here. Jordan Spieth is plus 225. I love that for a top 10. I like the momentum he has as well. Saw him, he was up there on the leaderboard last week, and really just kind of couldn't get it together trying to chase down. I think he got a little too aggressive chasing down Lucas Glover. He knew he had to be aggressive, and it just didn't work out. But plus 225, Jordan Spieth, I like that. He gained over 2 strokes putting last week, by the way. First time he's done that since Hilton Head, and that tournament he almost won. He lost in the playoff to Matthew Fitzpatrick. A couple more top 10s in here. I would say, I like I think Cam Young at plus 260 as a top 10 is a good one. I think in DFS, a ton of people are going to be on Cam Young, but I do like him as a top 10. Getting a little bit longer, got to play Cam Davis as a top 10 at plus 360. And probably the 2 longest I would go, Grillo at plus 450. And then I love Taylor Moore at plus 500. Another guy that we saw on the leaderboard last week, just didn't have a great Sunday, but Taylor Moore really had a good shot to win that golf tournament. So I liked him there at plus 500. All right. Tony, I don't know how much time I got, but I'll keep going here. Just a tip. This has something to do with time, kind of. We're kind of getting down to the end of the year. All right. We got one more tournament after this. We got this week, and then we got next week with only 30 players in the field. Okay. There's something that I like to do that a lot of people like to do at the end of the day. it's wind down. It's wind down time. All right. You know, the kids are off to bed. You've made dinner. You don't have any more things you got to do for somebody else. That's wind down time. All right. And that's when you want to have your favorite cocktail or whatever, and you just want to relax. All right. So that's what I'm doing right now. That's what we're going to do as the season comes to a close. We need to just kind of wind it down. We don't need to like just, throw out a bunch of bets here and there that we're not thinking out just to kind of try and, chase after maybe a positive season like DB is, or like me when your card is up almost 50 units. I think you just kind of at that point you're just trying to like, let's just, the season's almost over. Let's call it a day. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're calling it a day, and sometimes you just need to wind down, and that's what we're doing right now. So that's my tip. Okay. All right. So one last thing I wanted to talk about outside of the bets is we got to do a DFS lineup. I mentioned this early on. Now, typically David and I have been doing a cash lineup, and I just don't like doing cash in weeks like this in short fields. It's really hard to make any money in general. But I felt like I would do what I would call a good tournament lineup. So we're going to get a little bit crazy with this. We're going to try to think about ownership, because that's one of the things we talk about. That's been in Just a Tip before. We want to talk about ownership, and we want to think about that when we're choosing our players. Now, it's going to be more bunched up in this, when you only have 50 guys. So you may have a guy at 15% owned, where typically that might feel a little chalky, but this week it's really not. So we don't have to worry about that. Now, you also might want to eat some chalk, and I'm going to do that right off the bat. I'm going to take Rory right off the bat in this line. Now that drops me down to 7,500 or 75.8. And so it's really going to, hinder me a little bit, but that's okay, because we're trying to get a little crazy in here. Now, I think Emiliano Grillo is going to go underlooked a little bit this week, because he's right near Ben On. He's right near Taylor Moore, who's right below him, who's been playing recently. Siwoo Kim's up there. I feel like Emiliano is a good tournament play, so I'm going to go with Emiliano. All right. Then I'm going to drop down. I'm going to go pretty cheap, I think, because I feel like I need some room up top in this lineup. So I'm just going to kind of go a little bit cheaper here, and I'm going to go with a guy I think has a lot of upside, plenty of length. His driver can be a little bit crazy at times, but one of my favorite sort of high upside plays this week is Sahith Theegala. He is at 7,000. So I'm going to take Sahith. I think he's also going to be pretty low owned. I just don't feel, but he played well last week with a top 15, which is what I wanted to see from him. So I like that. All right. Then I'm going to come up a little bit, and I'm going to play another guy who's been in good form. Doesn't have a ton of length either, like Grillo, but Russell Henley's been playing very well lately. He's got top 10s in his last two events. We know he had a great chance to win at the Wyndham Championship, so I'm going to go with Russell Henley. All right, a couple more we got to go with here. I think I'm going to drop down a little bit cheaper again, and I am going to go with Siwoo Kim. I like that. That leaves me 7,700. I think I'm going to, probably eat a little chalk here, but I don't care. I feel like I've got enough differentiation with a few of the other guys, so I'm going to go with Ben On right there. So Ben On, Emiliano Grillo, Russell Henley, Siwoo Kim, Rory McIlroy, and Sahith Theegala. That is my tournament lineup. Submitting it. Don't dupe it. Take one of those players and change it out. All right? Don't dupe it. Just, let's make it a little bit different than that, but we'll see how that goes. All right, I think it's been a great show. Pat Perry, Tour Junkies, Better Sports Network, out.